That was great.
Do you want to do that again?
No.
No, you should do that again.
I'll do it again. All right, now we're really here. All right, we're with Taylor Rayner and Tiffany Pham. Did I say that right?
Yes.
I have a history of mispronouncing names, so I'm glad I said it right. So do you want to introduce yourselves and your job titles, where you work, and all that stuff?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. My name is Taylor Rayner, and I work with communities and schools, and I am one of the student support managers over at Northbrook High School in Spring Branch ISD.
And I am Tiffany Pham. I'm also work for Communities and School of Houston. I'm a student support manager at Westchester Academy for International Studies.
My name is Joseph Clamp. I'm executive pastor here at Chapelwood and a big supporter of communities and schools, and also on the Board of Trustees with Spring Branch.
Yeah, we're very excited about communities and schools being here. Y'all do a lot of great work in Houston and all around. And so, yeah, we're excited to dive into that. So do y'all kind of want to, I don't know if you want to tag team this or if one wants to take this over, but kind of give us an 3,000 foot view of what communities and schools is. That'd be great.
Sure.
A lot.
Yes, we're everywhere. We do it all.
Yeah. So I think we can give a little bit of background about communities and schools first, probably. So communities and schools has been around actually for a very long time. It originated up in New York. And so it's a national organization. So there are what are called affiliates all over the country, in many different districts in many different states. But in terms of Houston, Communities and Schools of Houston has been around. We're in our 41st year now, and on 167 campuses in Houston ISD, Spring Branch ISD, Alief, Fort Bend, and in the Lone Star College system. And we're constantly expanding. Anytime we meet with supervisors, our CEO, Lisa Descant, it's like, oh, we're in 157 campuses. Oh, we're in 162. Now we're at 167, and that's from just last week. So it's a fantastic organization.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Community schools does a lot of cool things. Joseph, do you want to kind of give maybe what you have worked with community schools and kind of your experience with them and what they do?
Yeah, so as a pastor here at Chapelwood, we are really connected with Spring Branch ISD, and so I've been on staff for 23 years now here at Chapelwood and have worked with different elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools throughout those years. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the need on campuses has greatly increased over the years for support, particularly in the social emotional side of things. And as a district that has some natural restrictions on it and restraints in regards to finance and personnel, you can't always address all the needs. And so I kind of learned a little bit about CAS many years ago through some of our church members who are serving on the Houston board, as well as the national board, and started to learn about the role CIS plays on campuses. And in Spring Branch, it's been primarily on our Title I campuses, where and so it was one of those things that the school district uses a certain percentage of funds that come in from federal dollars, and then CIS does a significant amount of fundraising to cover that, and so it really is a partnership. So for you guys, y'all are on Spring Branch campuses, and yet they're CIS employees.
Yeah.
But you would view yourselves as Spring Branch ISD team members as well.
Yes,
So
definitely.
it's like dual citizenship almost, where
Yes.
they are both and some of my interactions with some of our church leaders has been identifying campuses that are not Title I, therefore do not qualify for federal dollars or district dollars, and really taking it upon themselves to raise up leaders in the community, to raise funds to have counselors, CIS specialists on those campuses. And so that has begun to happen over the last several years.
Yeah.
So I've been really, really impressed and pleased with not only the work that CIS has done in the past, but I would tell you that lives are changed because of our CIS staff members that we have. Families are changed because of the CIS staff members that are pouring in, and impact is made.
Yeah, that's I haven't had a lot of exposure to CIS, but getting ready for this episode, I was reading up about it, and I was on the website, and I was just blown away with all the stuff that CIS does with case management and interacting with these students. And it's more than just a one-pronged approach. There was multiple things that, hey, this is how we're meeting them in this area of life. This is how we're meeting them in this area of life. Mm-hmm. And it just seems super thought out in its approach, and it's methodical. And I'm sure that is because each student's different. I'm sure it helps each of the areas has a different impact on each student. So it's nice to have such a wide and thought out approach.
Yeah, right. It's super comprehensive. We look at what tiered approach needs to happen, and then we look at different dimensions of, in a holistic way, of that student, how they operate through the systems in their lives, and what barriers they have.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And we try to bring the community support to the students, because we're out there. We just went to a networking event on Monday, just trying to get more information and different partners, bringing them into the schools and helping us provide the services to the students on our campuses.
Yeah, awesome.
In a lot of ways, Evan, it's that old adage of it takes a village to raise a child, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And where you have faith communities like Chapelwood that are stepping in and engaging in the community at a level that's outside of the walls of the faith community. But then you also have these partnerships that are significantly impacting the lives of the families, recognizing that from a school district's perspective, there are limitations.
Yeah.
And so just because there are limitations does not mean that we go to the edge of responsibility and then just trust someone else is going to take care of it outside.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Right? There's an element of CIS folks have resources outside of the district that can then bring in and partner to meet the very basic needs.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of diving in to CIS at a little bit of a deeper look, we like to, on this podcast, kind of take the golden circle approach and ask these three questions of why, how, and what. And we like to start with the question of why. So why, what is the why? What is the purpose behind CIS and its motivation for what it does?
I think we just saw the need. I think back at 41 years ago, there was a need that the students needed a community support, right? Bringing the community together to support the students, empowering them to stay in school, graduate, and achieve in life. So that's kind of our mission. That's our motto. And we have student support specialists and managers on the campus doing that, providing support and guidance, college readiness and career readiness. We provide family engagement. We also try to get our own students to give back to the community and volunteer and do those things. And it's great to see them succeed in that way.
It really is, because when you look at communities and schools as a whole, in the mission statement, it echoes exactly what Tiffany is explaining there, is that the goal is to graduate and achieve in life and succeed in school. And a lot of that revolves around eliminating the barriers that are standing between the student and graduating, and skill building. What skills do we need to equip the students with to succeed, to achieve in life, and to have something upon graduating that they can build on and take with them for the rest of their life. And that I think is what makes CIS so unique.
Yeah.
So you talked about right there about this, you identify barriers and skills that these students need to be learning. How do you do that? How do you identify what the barriers are, and how do you identify what these skills are that these students need to be learning?
Assessment.
Assessment. They're building their relationship. We believe why we're on campuses to build these one-on-one relationships with them, because it's the relationships, right, that gets them in, talking to us, getting to know them, getting to know what are the barriers, what are the needs, what are they really interested in, and then start building those skills to help them achieve in life.
Because sometimes it looks like academic barriers. Sometimes it looks like the tangible barriers when it comes to resources. Like what are very tangible needs that exist in their world, in their family's world, in their home world, and in their school world. And so when you are able to identify those, and it's a TEA program as well, so we have some help in the identification process of what students using data, right? We use at-risk lists, we use specific tools provided by the district and TEA to identify students. And then when you begin meeting with them and you are looking at their situation as a whole and you have those conversations and you build that relationship, you build the trust, naturally it just comes out, like what are they facing. And some of what we do is looking at the situation and identifying barriers that they might not even know exist, you know, because we work with marginalized communities too. So some of these systematic issues come up in the process as well.
So I think it's really interesting to think about this from almost out of an educational approach, to say, you know, within the scientific method, right, you would have this hypothesis. And I think in past approaches, whether it's from a state or federal level, the hypothetical understanding of what is the real issue can be created. But until you get boots on the ground, until you have somebody who's going to be sitting among students who would be classified marginalized, and say, well, why? You know, well, what's the driver? And it may, 41 years ago when CIS began, the issues that caused students to drop out and not complete their educational journey, they were different.
Oh, yeah.
And even over the last 10 years, I think CIS has been, in a lot of ways, on the forefront to recognize, hey, there's a mental and an emotional side of obstacles that we're missing. Right. And those are the obstacles that are really hard to overcome. And so I know that there's been a concerted effort to say the folks that we have in our schools are trained, and they are, and a lot of times they're emotional first responders. Right?
We're all trained
Crisis
as
response.
first responders, and then most of managers to support managers are all licensed and trained in that to assess and provide that support.
And that's different than even it was 10 years ago, right?
Right. And they're moving towards that. And I know, like, Tiffany and I, we've known each other for quite a few years now. We were in the same graduate program, so we have backgrounds in social work, but we have so many different mental health professionals, licensed professional counselors, licensed master of social workers, licensed clinical social workers, and licensed chemical dependency counselors. And, we have a whole mental health initiative through CIS too that's pushing this and making sure that there's feet on the ground on campuses providing those mental health services.
And we have more partners now, even. Like Nick Finnegan comes to both of our school. We have DePelchin. We have a ton of other mental health professionals coming in too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's cool to hear it's not a cookie cutter method, right? Like there's not this overall, we think every kid's going to fit into this category, right? And this is how we're going to solve it. But hearing that personal side to it and how there is this relationship being built and how you can meet these students where they're at, that is so neat to hear. And I'm sure, again, these students probably for them to be met where they're at, probably the impact on them is immense, and just to feel cared for and loved in those situations.
And to hear that too, like when I meet with students for the first time, I usually say, so a lot of what we do is provide support. Now that can mean 1,000 different things for 1,000 different students. And they're like,
That's great. So kind of moving into this last question of, moving from, so we identify barriers and we provide skills. What does that look like once you've identified them and the particular student? What does that look like in the actual physical steps that you're taking with these students? What are the programs and other things that CIS does?
Well, like we have our 3 tiers, right? So like school-wide, events, we have our targeted groups, and then we have our individuals. So once we've identified barriers, assess them, what their needs are, we meet with them individually, we bring in our partners and they can do groups. We do school-wide events, like if, with needs, we have food truck, having the mobile food truck come out. For our pre-K centers and kindergarten, elementary centers, we have the dental mobile truck will come, right, for kids who don't have access to that, right? And then getting them access to those things, and then we bring on our partners as well.
Yeah, so in terms of what it looks like to draw it out on paper, like once we identify, we go through that assessment phase, and at the beginning of the year, we plan a lot of our services. We look at, the campus as a whole, what the demographics look like, what are the needs there. We work with our principals and our administrative staff and our counseling teams and everybody that is also part of the campus family and look at what needs to happen. And so once we've built that relationship with the student, we kind of look at what services do we have? Are they a good fit for those services? What can I do on an individual level, a group level, a school-wide level? But also, if we're not able to meet the exact needs of those students, we refer. We say, here are all of these places where you can go to get this service, receive that mental health support. Let's look at your insurance. You don't have insurance? Let's look at that. So we use a lot of different methods, and that kind of ties back to the individualized student and their system and what it looks like. And so throughout, we follow them. So we are there for the whole school, but we also, what's called comprehensively case manage a certain number of students that's designated by TEA. And so those are students that might need a little bit more intensive type following for a certain amount of time. So we kind of take the approach that, we're trying to meet the needs of everybody, and then we take a smaller group and make sure that we're following them a little bit more closely.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of the stories that I've loved that has kind of come out of the CIS partnership. Several years ago, one of our lay leaders had identified with their own child when they would play middle school sports that some of the teams, particularly teams that were had a higher economically disadvantaged group in them, that they would play these sports within a district, and you'd have the team that you could tell the kids had been on select leagues and had been playing, organized sports for quite some time, were absolutely destroying in competition.
Yeah.
And saying, well, all right, they'll keep practicing, they'll get better. Well, that's a system. That's not equitable. So it's a system issue, right?
Yeah.
And we can recognize that athletics does offer a great connection to the school. It increases a connectedness to the school and the campus and the community. And so our lay leader had identified and then started working with the recreation ministry here at Chapelwood to find coaches to work with volleyball and basketball, some of these sports where some of our kids in other schools were able to play in select leagues, right? And now they're actually playing in leagues through SBMSA, playing in leagues through the community, and trying to close that gap. But also, it came from the relationship with CIS of saying, hey, here are students that really would benefit from being a part of a team and being a part of that structure. And you think, well, that's something that so many of our kids, they just take for granted. They get it. And yet we know that that's a part of the larger fabric of stability and growing.
Yeah. Chapelwood is a huge partner of CIS. We can't say enough about Chapelwood as a whole. This is my Chapelwood plug, but the program year-round manna, and I know for students, our seniors, and Tiffany has high schoolers at her campus too. The prom dress event, just meeting that sort of need, that kind of thing. It's huge for students when you can pass out flyers and tell them about this program. Hey, are you going to prom? You're going to prom? Do you need a dress?
Right.
Do you need a free dress? And so that's a huge thing. It seriously makes a difference.
Isn't that the beauty of the partnership? Because the CIS, you guys are on the campuses, and you can identify the real need and say, well, we got that covered. It's almost like that the work that we're all doing is just about removing obstacles. We're going to remove obstacles, whether they're real or whether they're perceived. We're removing obstacles and really kind of opening the future for all these students.
No, yeah, I think it's great. It's been awesome for me to be able to help on the local side of serving here at Chapelwood as well, and be a part of these programs like Flight 25, and Collegiate Challenge, and being able to help with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so, it's there's an immense joy that comes whenever you're able to come and love on these students. And, there's almost times I feel like I walk away receiving more than I gave because these students are they're amazing. And to be able to help them and help them realize potential that they have in them and help them grow their dreams it's really a amazing thing. All right, this is a great part of the first part of the interview. Howdy, and thanks for watching. Please leave a like and comment on this video. And if you aren't subscribed already to the Your Wide channel, go ahead and subscribe. Also, don't forget to turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. If anything during the video piques your interest, go ahead and check out the descriptions in the link below. Go and find your why, people.